3 weeks before the USL Cup playoffs, there's a different kind of trophy on the line. Welcome. Tonight's match presented by Zico Coconut Water, FC Cincinnati, and the Charlotte Independents are both after the Queen City Cup. Mike Watts, Devin Kerr with you. And Devin, we talk about raising one trophy and trying to hoist another one in a month and a half time. These teams are in different places on the table, though. Very different in general. Charlotte Independents have the luxury of already clinching their playoff spot, though still would like to be able to move up into that #1 seed. They're going to have to wait and see what Louisville brings in the next couple games. On the other side of the coin, FC Cincinnati playing well as of late, but that being said, still have a lot of work to get done. You can see the magic number, 9 points, 3 games. They got to go to work. Two teams with a lot of high-powered scores. There are 4 10-plus goal scorers between the teams. Danny Koenig is one. And they're going to shift them all over the field. Danny Koenig, you're going to see right here, he's able to move in behind the back line. Very slippery player, plays in a lot of different locations, excellent in the air, and that replay right there shows you a great representation of what he can do in the tightest little spaces. The back line tonight of Charlotte has got to be very careful. Make sure they keep a watchful eye on Danny Koenig. Runner-up for the Golden Boot 2 years ago in OKC. Meanwhile, Enzo Martinez has been the focus, but Alex Martinez is finally back. And sometimes his name seems to be lost in translation, but lost but not forgotten. Alex Martinez, very capable of doing a great job. He can move outside on the left. They'll move him back into the middle of the field, and he really is a great trifecta with Herrera and his brother. And, you know, FC Cincinnati is going to be careful to make sure that they don't give him too much of an opportunity to make an impact on this game this evening. A look at the starting lineups presented by Novant Health. FC Cincinnati, 3 changes. GB and Koenig start and Josu on the wing. Well, 2 very different styles of football we're going to see this evening. With FC Cincinnati, you're going to see in the 3-4-3, they're going to push numbers up high and play that high-pressure defense, but they're going to go quick on the offensive side of the ball, try and counter-attacking, watch the outside backs to get involved, watch the midfielders to go quick, and it's easy to do when you have Koenig, McLaughlin, and GB standing up top, waiting in support. Andrew Wiedemann and Justin Hoyt both did not make the trip their day-to-day. For Charlotte, Jaime Siage to the bench, Donnie Smith unavailable, so Yearwood and Martinez are in. Well, it doesn't hurt that you've got Cody Mizell in between the pipes in the back, and you're going to start there. Moving up the field, obviously very talented Joel Johnson on the outside back, making a push for possibly Defender of the Year. We'll see how those things come out at the end of the day. But again, Enzo Martinez, Jorge Herrera, Charlotte Independents, much more methodical in their ways. They're going to play a little bit old school style football, but Mike Jeffries has these guys trained, and they know how to get the job done. Very clever in the final third. So Charlotte is second in the Eastern Conference in thanks to a 12-match unbeaten streak over the summer, but they've scored 9 goals in 8 games since. For Cincinnati, 5 games unbeaten at the right time. Still have work to do to make the playoffs. The clash comes your way next.
The first moment I realized I had it inside me was back in high school. There was one day that I remember in my high school career pulling up to the soccer facility before a game. There was a huge sign that read, Ali Krieger, Player of the Year for the state of Virginia. And that was an award, in my eyes, was my aha moment for me. Trying to get to the highest level and be professional in my sport. And I think at that moment was the moment for me that I decided to continue to get serious about the sport and going to college and becoming a professional and then one day hopefully making the national team and winning a World Cup and winning the Olympics, because in our sport that's the ultimate goal, is that one wants to achieve and play at the highest level against the best players in the world. And I think since that day I saw that sign, I have never looked back, and I've tried to better myself every single day to become great. That was the moment that I first realized I had it inside me.
So there you are, shuffling through a stack of resumes, and you come to mine. This is it, first impression, my way in. But can my resume show you how I truly stand out? Like that I was studying, going to night school while working 2 jobs just to help my parents pay for groceries. Or being the first one to always step up. No, that's something you just can't put on paper. Look beyond the resume and discover new ways to develop great talent that is dedicated, hardworking, and determined like me.
Dealing with the naysayers, the critics, the bullies. I mean, when you're dealing with those types of people who are knocking you down constantly and wanting to see you fail, that should just fuel you. Your dreams will come true. You have to believe that.
Welcome back to Charlotte. 2 cool cats with you here tonight. Two cool cats down on the sideline. Alan Koch and Mike Jeffries are the head men for Charlotte and FC Cincinnati. Back with Devin Kerr, Mike Watson. Let's talk about the the Queen Cities Cup, I should say. The initial meeting, Alex Martinez scored. He's back from a 4-game suspension. Justin Hoyt scored. He is out tonight due to injury. And when you look at the overall aggregate last year, that proved to be the difference. This year, whoever wins this game's taking that cup.
Yeah, no holds barred, winner take all here. Here we go tonight. And not only that, we're dealing with the playoff race coming down the stretch as well. So I think there's going to be a boatload of energy between both squads. They're going to make sure they want to settle down in the quick, early 5-10 minutes, not let everything push them out of stadium, because there's going to be a huge atmosphere, and they want to make sure they stay cool, calm, and collected, much like those gentlemen on the sidelines, Jeffries and Koch, and just get the ball rolling early.
White jerseys with the red stripe for FC Cincinnati, a group that made that wonderful run to the U.S. Open Cup semifinal, fell to the Red Bulls, had a difficult week in total there, but since then, 5 unbeaten now, and it looks like they're getting closer to the playoff team that they envisioned from the beginning.
Well, I think most people around the United States would agree with you, and also going a step further, Mike, it's what every city would want for their squad in general. The U.S. Open Cup run kind of really put them on the map, so to say, and has brought so much energy and excitement into this environment, and they've really carried that on to the field of play, and they're hoping to continue that tonight and down the stretch in their final few games.
And the 21,000 fans they averaged per game over their 16-game home slate, and then you include their friendly against Valencia and their home games in the Open Cup against MLS rivals, you would say it was a pretty good year for FC Cincinnati in that sense as well. Meanwhile, new stadium since these teams last met, new venue. It's a bigger field, it's a grass field. We spoke with Mike Jeffries for Charlotte. You get the feeling he feels they can play through this Cincinnati team more than they did the first time around.
And he said, we're not that different, but we're very different. He kind of gave you two very contrasting statements, and you're listening to Mike going, hey, man, come on, give me a little bit more than that. But, Mike Jeffries very coy in his efforts and his comments. Again, going back to their style of play, they're methodical. They're kind of old school soccer, but you're going to see a lot of ball movement for them, a lot of possession, but they'll lull you to sleep as they bring the ball up the field, and then just like that, they'll strike like a scorpion, push it into the final third, go quick, go fast, looking to get that early goal.
You saw last year's goalkeeper of the year in the USL, Mitch Hildebrandt, and you saw Cody Mizell, 4th in the league in saves this year for Charlotte. FC Cincinnati always brings a big traveling bunch, and certainly there are fans watching at home as well, this game being aired in the Cincinnati market. We're glad that you're joining us, including fervent supporter Mark Schweikowski and members of the Pride there. For Charlotte, here in Matthews tonight, this is a big game for them, not because they can jump Louisville City, who are first right now in the conference necessarily. That would take a lot of work. But this is a position to keep that 2 seed and host more than one playoff game when you reach the playoffs, which they have assured.
Well, and speaking with Mike Jeffries, more importantly, they're trying to get themselves out of the gutter. They've been on a little bit of a skid, so, going on that nice winning streak mid-season, pushing themselves to the top of the table, and kind of put the brakes on the last couple games. Jeffries saying that he felt like they played pretty well, a little bit unfortunate with the final results, but feels confident in his squad here this evening.
Mike Watts, Devin Kerr, here we go from the Sportsplex at Matthews. Cincinnati and Charlotte. A lone Friday night game on the USL slate. Headed out, and Joel Johnson will throw. Native of Spain, all at 24 years old. Martinez on the turn. 16 goals this year, 2nd in the Golden Boot chase, only Dane Kelly ahead. Yearwood finding Enzo Martinez and turned it over. Josu launches it the other way. Bounces for Martinez. Opportunity created by Hilton. Hilton laying off. Martinez will have a go. Oh, he just swung it wide of the post. Good start for Charlotte through 70 seconds.
Man, what you just saw right there from Charlotte is what you're going to see for most of the game. They're going to move the ball around the field quick. You saw it come in, come out, come back into Enzo, takes one little touch, has a nice little look up, digs it to the far post. I think Hildebrandt had it covered, but very impressive from Charlotte so far.
There's Enzo Martinez again, and despite being pushed down, he found Estrada. Herrera? Nearly Estrada came free to Matt Boehner. It's Callum Ross, the rookie. Push from behind was a fair challenge. Alex Martinez took it away. Enzo driving in. Boehner spun around and played to the feet of Danny Koenig, who's far away from home right now. Ball sliced in by Alex Martinez.
Always nice to have a little friendly foe from the forward position coming back to help the center backs out.
That's sent a bit too far and out of play. There's Matt Boehner out of West Chester in Ohio. Was a University of Cincinnati Bearcat, having missed the 2011 season. Went on to Harrisburg, where he was first team all USL. Square ball for Bilal Duckett. Flag is up for offside. 3 minutes in, scoreless between Cincinnati and Charlotte. You see David Estrada there. We talk about Herrera and the Martinezes, and Estrada, another guy who maybe doesn't get a lot of attention. But this front four, the way they move off each other, presents a lot of challenges for opposing teams.
It's extremely difficult. I mean, all of them are capable at playing almost any single position from the midfield or forward position, and what you'll get is a point man up top, stepping back into the middle, overlapping runs onto the outside, tucking back into the middle, constantly changing play, change of direction, and that's very difficult for a back line, especially when you're sitting three back there. It takes a boatload of communication, and it's exactly what FC Cincinnati is going to need. You'll see with Charlotte as well, going a step further, once they come into defense and FC Cincinnati pushes forward, that's what we're going to see the response. When Charlotte holds the ball so long and then turns it over, how is the defensive side going to look when FC goes so quick?
Skipped by Jimmy McLaughlin. Johnson sent that to the inside of Enzo Martinez. Kicked away by Walker. And now it's Joe Sue, who was extended at the start of August since these teams last met, was signed in May, and now be with the team through the 2018 season. Slide by Kenny Walker, and Alex Martinez was fouled.
And Mike, we talk about communication's key for both of these squads here tonight, especially with the different styles of play, and you can hear it on the field right now. It's like a chess match, positioning all the pieces right in the spot, at the right time, excuse me. And every single time one piece moves, everybody else on the field has to shift as well.
Yearwood retreating back across his own half. Charlotte controlling in the blue jerseys. Back to Cody Mizell, the goalkeeper. Boehner collects, and we'll see if Cincinnati can get an extended spell of possession here. Corbin Bones sent it up the left. That's a hairdo to remember. Ball played across. GB was the target. Headed by Kalungi. Alex Martinez will collect. Do you ever go the frosted tips or the full-on bleached hair look during your MLS career?
Yeah, most people will tell you I've had many a haircut or hairdo, if you will. I have never gone the route of cosmetics.
What's the worst that you've put on? I can't imagine you with like a mohawk or anything. It couldn't have been anything that excessive.
I used to rock the long hair look, almost like a Mohican, if you will. Hair down to the middle of my back. That was a little bit confusing for some of my family members.
To have the wherewithal to stick with that is remarkable.
Yeah, overseas they enjoy it.
Johnson. There's Mitch Hildebrandt taking it in. And Sem DeVitt in the area as well defensively. GB pushed from behind and from Kalungi. That's an unnecessary challenge.
Yeah, 100%. GB just trying to get a foot on the ball. Kalungi did very well to give a nice little nudge in the back. Unfortunately, went a little bit too hard with his efforts. GB had no problem voicing his opinion, embellishing possibly a little bit.
DeVitt puts it back in play. Came over from Vancouver mid-season. The foul occurred just behind the halfway line. 7 minutes in, Cincinnati and Charlotte scoreless still. Long ball over the top of Danny Koenig and twist toward the corner flag and out. Goal kick on the way for Charlotte.
And interestingly enough, so far in the opening 10 minutes right here, approaching 8 minutes flat. Both squads pretty stereotypical in their movements. As I said, Charlotte kind of slowly making their way up the pitch, not in any hurry. FC Cincinnati on the other side has been very direct so far. Neither one having a boatload of chances.
Boehner rose up to get a piece of that. And Alex Martinez has to go a bit too far, and then he throws GB down. So GB already has become rather familiar with this new surface in Matthews. Doesn't bother becoming too familiar with Alex Martinez. A 4-game suspension. This is first game back. Josu sends it up the line. This is a good look. The cutback by Barry. Bone reverses to Josu.
I found my Alex Martinez. I'm turning around having a word with Austin Yearwood and the rest of the guys on the back line kind of just standing around as that set piece got moving.
Josu trying to switch the point. Johnson gives chase and a shove as well. You can see the physicality from Charlotte very much on display in the opening 9 minutes. GB ahead to it for Cincinnati. Josu will chase all the way back, and Kalungi got it away to Martinez.
Excellent job by Alex Martinez holding up the ball there.
Johnson pushes ahead. Estrada will bounce down. Enzo Martinez playing him up toward the corner by Sem DeWitt. Estrada sent it behind Herrera inside the 18 and out for a throw.
What a great job in that series there by Charlotte. Alex Martinez holding the ball up the middle, laying it off on the outside. Little deflection, jumps back over to his brother who plays it into the channel. Very impressive.
Taken away. Equally impressive from Cincinnati on that restart by Sem DeVitt. It's Corbin Bone for Kenny Walker in the center circle. Yearwood picked this up. It's Mizell. Charlotte have not scored now in 192 minutes. A couple of consecutive shutouts. First time that's happened to them this year. The number 4 scoring offense in USL entering this stretch.
It's an absolutely staggering statistic considering they're plus 15 in the goal differential, sitting on 48 points, and to hear they haven't scored in that stretch, it's got to be frustrating for the guys up top. But sometimes you go through little spells like that. You don't want to get overly frustrated, and they will come. And when they come, sometimes the floodgates just open and they start to pour it all the way through.
Well, and if you're Charlotte, you're thinking much better now than in 3 weeks, because if the playoffs start and you forget how to score, that typically doesn't bode well.
Yeah, most people aren't going to remember that you weren't able to lock down the 2nd or 3rd spot when you end up winning the cup.
Lewis Hilton continuing on. Herrera scored 8 times in the month of June. Herrera is knocked away by Barry. Kept alive, and Hildebrandt leaps out on top of the ball. Could have been a juicy rebound. Hip, hip, Jorge, they chant.
Yeah, some solid ball movement there by Charlotte as the ball comes in. Lewis Hilton, wow, he's going to have a few words with Herrera. You can't fault Herrera for stepping in there, but Lewis Hilton sitting all alone with a pot of tea right on the penalty mark, waiting for that ball to drop at his feet.
That ball kid just put one in play. Someone else threw it out, and Koch has a wry smile on his face.
You know, he probably had that white, wishes he had that white and red stripe on tonight, right?
I think both coaches probably could make that claim. Mike Jeffries, a Herman Trophy winner in his own right. GB dispossessed, and Callum Ross over to take it and set up Johnson. Johnson showing off some good speed. McLaughlin to cover. Martinez swept it to his feet. Martinez with a bit of misdirection. Johnson over the bar. Absolute rip from the Spaniard.
And that right there is why some people have him in the conversation for Defender of the Year. Excellent two-way player. Charlotte methodically trying to move the ball up. I tend to use that word here and there, but it really is an accurate representation of the way that they play, and Johnson, unfortunately, could not put that one on frame.
Ball through the legs. Danny Koenig for the white-clad, orange-striped FC Cincinnati players. Off the head of DeWitt. It's Boehner. Turned over, and now Bone gets it from McLaughlin. Joe Sue on one touch. Kalungi handled that easily.
You can see the play from both squads a little bit choppy at this moment, especially from the midfield play. For the most part, done well on both back lines in the past 5 minutes. The guys up top trying to make things happen, but some unforceful and extremely unnecessary errors coming out of the middle of the park.
Nearing the quarter hour mark, scoreless from the Sportsplex at Matthews. Play a bit choppy, a good way to put it. Tit for tat between the sides to this stage. Danny Koenig. A through ball with no particular target in mind in the end.
And well done by Cody Mizell to call his defenders off, and quick transition heading up the park with Alex Martinez.
Enzo Martinez on the turn and ahead of steam. Deflected kindly. Estrada for Johnson. Flicks it over to Josu. Gets the return ball. Johnson. It's knocked out. It was Harrison Delbridge defensively for Cincinnati. A corner to Charlotte.
And once again, Joel Johnson getting in on the act. He's been very active in the opening half for Charlotte Independence. Nice little over-appling run, little 1-2 play down into the corner. Enzo Martinez was very upset with him that he couldn't hit him on the mark, sitting right at the top of the six. And Charlotte Independence happy to grab a corner.
Well, this will come all the way to Alex Martinez. This is one way to go about it. Is it chaotic enough to make this difficult? Skips over towards Ross. And out another corner for Charlotte. Your face turned a bit. You were wondering where that was on the training ground.
That was definitely drawn up in the little black book. Mike Jeffries trying to pull one of his tricks out of the bag early. I was extremely curious where that was headed, but quite rapidly disappointed.
Another corner on the way for the Independents in the 17th minute. Driven, and well, David Estrada wasn't able to turn that back in front.
Yeah, but I think the biggest take from Charlotte in that situation on that corner is the run that he was able to make to the near post with almost no representation from FC Cincinnati on the defensive side of the ball. Great ball served in. Unfortunate not to put it on frame, and Cincinnati on their heels a little bit in the past couple minutes.
Johnson will take this throw. Good crowd on hand tonight, a mixture. Cincinnati, Charlotte fans alike. Cincinnati leading the way in attendance in the USL again, shattering the attendance record. Over 21,000 per contest at Nippert Stadium, which has very quickly become the epicenter of second division soccer in this country, and maybe more, as evidenced by the good turnout for the U.S. women's national team earlier this month.
I'm extremely jealous. I've only had the opportunity to be around an environment like this a few times, but imagine living in this awesome city in general, yet alone the fact that this light of amazingness has come into your life over the past 12 months. So many cool additions, and obviously the U.S. Open Cup run.
Alex Martinez dished it off. Estrada further. Johnson. Well, that was a perfectly hit ball out, and it had to be from Harrison Delbridge because there were trailers.
Yeah, Alex Martinez sitting right on the top of the 18. And it's interesting, you want to see how FC Cincinnati is going to respond now, because the past 3 or 4 progressions of Charlotte coming forward with the ball, most of it has been down the right side, starting in the middle, pushing it outside, and almost the exact same play, cutting it right back to the top.
So eyes on Josu and McLaughlin for how they'll handle that. Corner for Charlotte. Snap down. Estrada got back to it, sliding to block, and kicked away by the Cincinnati defense. Alex Martinez getting ready again. He got by GB, and now he serves slipping to the ground. Popped up by Ross, and Josu clears.
I'll tell you what, Mike, on these set pieces, dead ball situations, throw-ins, everything down in the final third so far, there is just way too much open space for Charlotte to run into. FC Cincinnati needs to start making some changes on the defensive side of the ball, because they are letting Charlotte have the run of it. And you can see right here, great little flick through to the back post. Estrada, everybody taking a look to see whether or not that went off the hand. Definitely not off the inner thigh. Some solid defending right there by Danny Koenig, tracking back once again, helping the boys out.
Well, Boehner just sort of flipped his whole body at it. Wasn't necessarily his arm or his torso. Through ball, Martinez! Untouched. Goal kick. 20 minutes in, it's still scoreless, but Charlotte getting the run of play.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether or not Hildebrandt got a hand on that, but I think either way, FC Cincinnati fans are more than happy to chant "Mid says no." Martinez sneaking through, trying to pick out that far post.
Puts the ball down and emphatically sends it wide. Hildebrandt. Corbin Bone being pressured. Herrera almost ran away with it. DeVitt knocks it back. Here's DeVitt again. Last year, the Whitecaps FC2 Player of the Year. Playing under then head coach Alan Koch. Martinez slipped it. Herrera back. Martinez kept it, and he shot it wide. Did Hildebrandt get a touch to that?
Mitch Hildebrandt looking around with eyes of bewilderment, trying to figure out what just happened. Number one, how did they break down once again? And how could the most arguably important man from Charlotte Independence be left so alone? And on the final note, how does Enzo Martinez not slot that away? I mean, you are not going to get much more of an open opportunity against this Cincinnati squad. Wow, Mike Jeffries has got to be frustrated with that one.
That was almost goal number 17 of the year. Danny Koenig throws his fist out in frustration. Lewis Hilton points back at him and wants a call from the referee. Now Koenig will get a talking to. Play will stop. Bartle Passage, referee. You've been a part of these games. There's no such thing as an uncontested ball. Every push, every shove is calculated.
Yeah, I mean, these two squads in general, whether it's the first game of the season or the 5th or the 15th, they're definitely going to be pushing numbers, and there's going to be a lot of emotion. There's a lot at stake, make no mistake about it. So, you know, you're going to treat every ball and enter every tackle as a world-class one, thinking it's going to be your last one, trying to help your team out.
Hilton for Alex Martinez. A shove, not enough to dispossess Enzo. Johnson. Johnson at the byline, high arcing effort. Pushed out by Boehner. I'm not sure who these players have more contempt for at this present moment. The opposition or the referee who's taking the brunt.
He's definitely had a stern talking to from quite a few of them. Cheeky little play by Corbin Bone, finding the 5-hole in the middle of the field.
GB for McLaughlin, who's the Charlie Hustle of this group.
Well, and Mike, in the 24th minute here, I think the biggest testament, although it's been interesting to see how much space has been open for Charlotte going forward, I think we actually have to give a boatload of credit to them on the defensive side of the ball, because when they have turned the ball over, no matter how deep or center of the field they may be, they've done a great job getting the right numbers behind the ball and having the right personnel in the right place at the right time. And you haven't heard the names GB, McLaughlin, or Koenig, at least not regularly going forward. You've heard them tracking back, helping up the defense, but that's about it.
Cutting back to stay on side was Estrada. Serves for Herrera. Boehner, calm under pressure, poking it toward midfield. We talked about front fours, and Cincinnati loaded up with finishers. You look at GB and Koenig, guys who get in front of net and finish chances, and neither have had the opportunity so far.
Well, definitely not. I think one of the reasons that's happened is because of Harrison Delbridge is breaking down on the left-hand side.
Boehner, Yearwood, Herrera. Oh, he missed it. Missed it pretty badly in the end.
There's another opportunity by the Charlotte Independents. Jorge Herrera looked like he pulled out an absolute pistol whip to go after that thing, but should have just tried to get contact and put it on goal.
Johnson, it's a long run. Not even McLaughlin can catch up to that.
And once again, Mike, 25th minute now. First time outside of my reference a second ago that we've actually mentioned Jimmy McLaughlin's name going forward in a positive manner. If I'm Alan Cost, I'm trying to figure out what exactly I can do with what I have on the field at this point in time. Obviously, you can start moving things around at halftime and talk about substitutions and replacements, but having a word with his assistant right there, things are not going right for them so far.
No, rather inauspicious start for FC Cincinnati on the road, where they've struggled in truth this year. They've only won a couple of games away from Nippert Stadium this year. 7 losses, 4 draws to go with it. It's amazing because last year they were plus 14. We talked about Charlotte and how they're right around that goal difference margin. Well, this year Cincinnati is minus 14 on the road, plus 14 at home, and that leaves you right where they are, about a 500 club. Offside flag goes up.
Well, and you got to wonder, from a preparation standpoint, is there anything different going into those road matches? Everybody always asks me, what do I think the biggest difference is between when I finished playing and the time now? And I think the actual preparation for a player and for a team in general is so much more advanced in this day and age. That could come into play. Sometimes players' heads, they just find it difficult being in a much more emotional environment, being away from home. But whatever it is, they got to figure it out, and they got to figure it out quick.
High up in the air for GB. Koenig, mid-season edition, he's bagged 10 goals. That was really close to the line.
And Danny Koenig, real close to the byline there. Thought he kept it in. Very unfortunate not to do so. Charlotte tries to play a little triangle game in their own third here. And Alex Martinez going to have a word with the third official. Not happy he didn't pull a foul in that situation. FC Cincinnati going to grab a corner.
27 minutes in, scoreless. Cincinnati sits in 6th. 5 matches unbeaten. Their better runs of the year, trying to pick up a road win at 2nd seeded currently, Charlotte Independence. Lost their last 2. Joe Sue to take the corner for Cincinnati. Didn't put nearly enough on it, make it threatening.
No, that's a terrible effort in that situation. You've got the likes of Harrison Delbridge standing at 6'4", Sem David at 6'1", even Austin Berry creeping in at 6'2". You got to give them a chance to get to the ball. And if you're gonna ping it to the near post, you better go with precision and make sure that you've got a player running onto it to flick it.
Bone, Boehner. Bone almost took that away, and Callum Ross with a really good turn to hold on to possession. It's Corbin Bone again. Played with Chicago and Philadelphia, went to Wilmington over the course of the 2014 and 15 season. Bone's been really fantastic in midfield for Cincinnati in these 2 years out of Wake Forest. Boehner. McLaughlin, who's moved to the right-hand side. Boehner dancing.
Actually have a mutual acquaintance with Corbin Bone. He's part of that national championship team in '07.
Okay, now there's a name drop to be had. McLaughlin with a rip. Oh, it was a dangerous tap. Are we really not going to find out who the mutual acquaintance is?
Yeah, you know, I'm going to have to figure out what sort of media representation contract he's got going on right now in case I got to pay him royalties.
Okay. You know, name drops aren't a bad thing. Well, once in a while, just throwing one in there saying, you know, my favorite band is Jim Trace and the Makers. Just toss it in there and hope the band doesn't sue you. That's a personal thought.
Yeah, my buddy's sitting at home going, did you hear Devin give me a little shout out during the game today?
GB trying to interchange there. Half an hour in, scoreless between Charlotte and Cincinnati, and you and I spoke about it earlier. We've seen Cincinnati a handful of times, and you gradually get used to the idiosyncratic characteristics of players around you. Everyone's a little different. Cincinnati has changed their lineup a lot over the course of this year. As Barry sends it over, GB fell down. Was unimpeded in that effort. Bone takes over. McLaughlin, will McLaughlin give it a try? He himself demolished by Kalungi. Too far for Enzo Martinez. Comes back to Walker. McLaughlin. Up the line. Out for a throw. But Cincinnati has changed their roster a lot, in part because they've played so many games that you almost have to do it.
I mean, you definitely got to move personnel in and out, make sure people get in the right amount of rest. But like you said, it's crazy to think how many times you and I have seen them, especially yourself, and almost every single time I've seen a different look. I mean, the formation is pretty much the same. They're, for the most part, going to run a 3-4-3 at you. At least that's what they like to call it. They're going to run the 3-4-3. They're going to push high numbers. We haven't exactly seen that tonight, but from a chemistry standpoint, you really do start to get that seventh sense almost, if you will, about which way a player is going to turn, the tiniest little fact that's going to help give you that advantage. And a lot of situations, FC Cincinnati just doesn't have that. You can see a lot of the players are out of sync in the way that they're moving off the ball with each other.
Ball over the top. That offside flag is getting a workout. Enzo Martinez is pointing, gesturing.
And Enzo Martinez extremely upset, but you got to wonder if he would have actually broken off of the ball and let it fall to Jorge Herrera, whether or not he was in behind the line as well. Enzo's going to take the brunt of it on that one.
You saw Mike Jeffries, much calmer presence about it. Was that on Enzo?
Could change in the next couple minutes.
For now. Johnson wheeling up to the near hand touchline. Charlotte in the 33rd minute possessing. Bone nearly took that away. Does force the turnover as the ball knocked out, and rather it was Bone last to touch it, so the Independents will keep it, but the pressure from Cincinnati much more stifling over this last moment. The back heel out of pressure falls to Boehner, and the right back pushing it forward. Koenig still 30 yards up the touchline. McLaughlin in swinger toward Gibi. Just a touch from Duckett. Josu back toward Gibi. This time it's headed out by his center back partner Kalungi. Ball lined into the box again. Yearwood got up.
And with that high press that Cincinnati has been employing, you can see the spells of possession starting to creep in, and Charlotte's going to start to get a taste of what Cincinnati can do real quick, because they've been lulling them to sleep, as I said, and then all of a sudden in the past 2 minutes they've come to life and they're starting to show some chances for it.
Josu kept it in play. McLaughlin. There's Boehner again. The first meeting between these teams came June 10th. Boehner had the most touches of any player for Cincinnati. That service is steered out. Joel Johnson had the most for Charlotte, the outside backs on opposing corners.
And we're definitely seeing that out of Joel Johnson so far. He's been extremely active, like we said, up and down the field, all over the place. A couple minutes ago, saw a little switch of the ball to Austin Yearwood. Yearwood actually having to lay chase, didn't realize it was coming.
Hilton poked that away. Alex Martinez into the center circle. Ross scooping the ball into the right-hand corner. Back by Herrera. Estrada backtracking. He's got company. Delbridge. DeVitt.
Here, Alan Koch having a few words with Austin Berry, not happy with his fullback's play.
Bone jumped out in front of Jorge Herrera. That's an epic back heel with a lot of pace that Barry could have caught up. Kalungi kicks it out. Still a throw for Cincinnati.
Very cheeky by Boehner. Nice little overlapping run by Austin Berry. And that's what Koch is going to want to see of his midfield and his back line. That when they move it up to the final third like this, and you have to backtrack a little bit, you need the overlapping runs, pushing in and out of those spaces. Very good.
Boehner moving forward still. Koenig heads it backward. DeVitt on the ground. Koenig bring it all the way toward the byline. Yearwood shouting The AR says it's a corner. Alex Martinez goes over to have a word, and really most of the time something doesn't go Charlotte's way. They're quick to make sure they get their word in.
Well, and Alex Martinez has no problem being a little bit verbose with the assistant referee. I think that definitely took a deflection and should be a goal kick. Enzo sharing his brother's passion for the game right now, we'll put it politely.
And a yellow card is coming. It appears it would be for dissent at this present moment. Looks like Yearwood with their, rather it'll be Alex Martinez picking that up.
Well, it's difficult and frustrating for the back line too, because you work so hard to win the ball back, and in that situation it actually took a deflection.
Corner on the way for Cincinnati. That's dangerous. There goes Martinez. Martinez was caught up to by Walker, who covered a ton of ground.
That is world-class defending by Kenny Walker. Martinez should have kept his head up. He had Estrada streaking down the left side. Tried to play it too late, ended up turning the ball over, and he's going to regret that decision. Going in 1v1, 2v1 at the end with Estrada streaking down. Needs about 2 or 3 less touches in that situation, my man.
Announcement over the PA system that indeed Alex Martinez did pick up that yellow card. That's his 4th of the year, so he's closing in on a yellow card accumulation suspension, as it seems like so many players in the league are right now, with just a couple games to go. 5 yellow cards over 32 games isn't that much of a stretch for most players.
Yeah, definitely not, but still, I mean, this early in the game, you're in the 39th, well, sorry, now we're in the 39th minute. He probably picked that up around the 36th or so, and, you know, it's frustrating for a coach. I had it happen to me a long time ago. My disciplinary record was, we'll say, not the best while I was in high school, and one of the conversations that I had with my coach, he sits down, you know, you've got a center back who very passionate for the game, and he said, I got to figure out how to keep you on the field.
Yeah. Deflected off the foot of Corbin Bone. I imagine that's a somewhat awkward conversation, but one where constructively, I'm sure it makes sense. It's logical.
Well, 100%, and take it out of the coach's hand, jump into the player's psyche. You know, Alex Martinez, 40th minute now, pushing forward. He's got to play the next 50 minutes of this game on a yellow card. So that will sometimes bring a little hesitancy into your mind when you're not as quick to challenge into that tackle.
Here's Alex Martinez now. Spin by Enzo Martinez. Line drive across to Johnson, approaching the 18, slowly. Ross, Alex Martinez, met by Walker. Yearwood, Martinez, they're moving the ball around pretty well now. Martinez couldn't find the runner. Alex Martinez again sent it forward. Turned over to Estrada. Taps it through. Enzo Martinez cutting toward the byline. Toward the short, very short angle. And out. A goal kick on the way in the 41st minute. It remains scoreless.
And you got to wonder, Mike, as we approach halftime here, we had the conversation with Mike Jeffries midweek and talking about his form of play and the way things went on. Here's another look at that corner kick that possibly should have been a goal kick. Alex Martinez sharing his favorite pot roast recipe with the linesman.
Is that what you used to do?
It's definitely my favorite thing to do. But, you know, approaching the 40th minute, Mike Jeffries saying that he was pretty happy with his team's performance so far, but just sometimes you just didn't have the magic. And, you know, you weren't able to finish off. And hopefully that's not the case tonight, because they've had probably 3 very clear-cut opportunities that should have been put in the back of the net. But even if they only put 1 away, that puts even more pressure on FC Cincinnati on the road. On the reverse side of things, we're closing in on halftime, and though Cincinnati hasn't played very well, still a 0-0 game.
Cody Mizell, 81 saves this year, but hasn't really had to do a lot tonight.
Solid tape job.
Very.
Right.
He's looking like he's out there for a fight.
100%. There's effort into that.
Corbin Bone rather incredulous. Johnson made a bit of a mistake there, and the foul conceded by Bilal Duckett.
It's always nice when you're approaching halftime and you haven't had to call the center back's name yet.
So it's Kenny Walker, who spent a couple years with LA Galaxy. 2014, they won the MLS Cup with Galaxy 2 as well. Of Wycliffe High School in Ohio. Walker, that bounced through. Nobody touched it. Delbridge had that skip by his feet.
I think everybody in the Independence Stadium took a big deep breath there, including myself. Thought that was going to drop at the feet of GB possibly. Tell you what, Cody Mizell's uniform looked like it just came out of the laundry. Untouched, unscathed, picture perfect green.
Meanwhile, Mitch Hildebrand has had to dive around a couple of times. Not that the balls were necessarily on target. Foul in center circle, Jorge Herrera making his argument still.
I feel like from a dissent standpoint, I would fit right in on this Charlotte squad.
With Devin Kerr talking about pot roasts, anything is possible. Mike Watts alongside. 45th minute, nearing halftime in Matthews, North Carolina. Banner sachets it back. DeVitt. Steered by Bone. GB was the intended target. Enzo Martinez spun around. Yearwood blindly sent that upfield. Bone. Walker led it right into contact. Hilton couldn't keep it. Advantage played, although the ball was batted by Herrera. Enzo Martinez. There's space here for Johnson. McLaughlin is caught up. Johnson approaches the penalty area for Charlotte. Estrada, 1 minute of stoppage time. Johnson serves it low. Corner on the way for Charlotte in first half stoppage time.
Charlotte Independence trying to sneak one in here real quick at the end of the first half. Once again, the Independents pushing the ball down the right side of the field. Joel Johnson, excellent overlapping run. Terrible service, but a good run nonetheless.
Service across, headed, Kalungi right in. Hildebrandt didn't have to move much, sidestepping and making that catch.
FC Cincinnati at the back, once again, just letting Charlotte do whatever they want on these set pieces. I mean, it's just a floated ball to the penalty mark. But Henry Kalungi hitting that ball off his head right out of a gun. Spraying it all over the place.
Halftime, Cincinnati trying to get something on the road, and in that sense, they keep Charlotte off the board. Their big name guys didn't get involved nearly enough, I think, and Charlotte, they come away feeling like they could have had something in this first half.
FC Cincinnati very lucky to be going in 0-0 at half. They're going to be thanking their lucky stars. On the other side, Charlotte Independent's going to be very frustrated. I'm not exactly sure I would like to be on the attacking side of things on this squad to hear Mike Jeffries at halftime. But either way, 0-0 going into half. It's going to be an epic second half.
Halftime between Charlotte and FC Cincinnati here on SiriusXM. Enzo Martinez, so very close. It's a game of inches. Highlights, stats from the first half when we return.
The first moment I realized I had it inside me was back in high school. There was one day that I remember in my high school career pulling up to the soccer facility before a game. There was a huge sign that read, Ali Krieger, Player of the Year for the state of Virginia. And that was an award, in my eyes, was my aha moment for me. Trying to get to the highest level and be a professional in my sport. And I think at that moment was the moment for me that I decided to continue to get serious about the sport and going to college and becoming a professional and then one day hopefully making the national team and winning a World Cup and winning the Olympics, because in our sport that's the ultimate goal, is that one wants to achieve and play at the highest level against the best players in the world. And I think since that day I saw that sign, I have never looked back, and I've tried to better myself every single day to become great. That was the moment that I first realized I had it inside me.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. Since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Hey? God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early. You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Independence fans, it's time to get your 2018 season membership and enjoy up to 40% off 18 game tickets and exclusive team events. Made easy on an optional 6-month payment plan. You can sign up at charlotteindependence.com/members. charlotteindependence.com/members. Sign up before the postseason begins. You'll get this Jorge Herrera bobblehead and a first-round home playoff ticket free.
We've raised the stakes. Expectations are high. Our biggest season yet will break records with elite players and future stars, innovative technology, and new homes. We're growing the game in our communities and across the nation. Are you ready?
Mike Watts, Devin Kerr with you. Halftime in Charlotte. This match being presented by Zico Coconut Water. Two teams unable to come away with a goal in this opening half. And with a quick moment, happy birthday to Matthew Schweikowski. Very happy for all the things that you've accomplished. We're looking forward to much more. And your brother Mark as well, a belated one. Coming up, we'll take a look at the Golden Boot race and size it up. Enzo Martinez that much closer to one in this first half. We'll see if he can't come away with one in the second, and stats and highlights to follow. Back in a moment for Matthews.
Recently, our country has witnessed catastrophic devastation. Hurricanes and flooding have upended lives and livelihoods.
Across this great country, Americans have answered the call.
That special calling that compels us, when others are down, to step up and do whatever it takes.
America's at her best when, against all odds, we come together and lift each other up.
Please donate to oneamericaappeal.org. America needs you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Every day across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
The race for the USL Golden Boot is one to watch entering the final weeks of the USL regular season. The USL's all-time leading scorer, Dane Kelly, leads the league's top offense in Reno 1868 FC. Kelly's 18 goals on the year are chasing Matt Fondy's USL single-season scoring record of 22, set back in 2015, as Kelly pursues the first Golden Boot of his career. Enzo Martinez is second in the race with 16, but hasn't tallied a goal since week 24. Martinez and the Charlotte Independents enter week 28 having clinched a spot in the playoffs, but looking to hold on to the number 2 seed. The Charleston Battery's Romario Williams has only played in 20 games this season, yet has scored 15 goals. June's Player of the Month is looking to get back into scoring form. The Jamaican international has been held scoreless since August 12th. Real Monarchs SLC's Chandler Hoffman has already matched a single-season high of 14 goals and has done it with the fewest shots of any player in Golden Boot contention. Hoffman's 46 shots are about half that of Dane Kelly, who leads the league with 93 shots. The Pittsburgh Riverhounds' Corey Herzog has played the most minutes of the players in the running and is coming off his third 2-goal performance on the year. Herzog's brace against Bethlehem Steel FC brought his season total to 13, the same number he had in the 2016 regular season. With 3 weeks to go, the contenders will look to end on a high note as the race nears the finish line. For USL Network, I'm Morgan Conklin.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Find fun activities to do, like boating and biking, or camping and hiking, plus much more. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He knows he's a pretty big deal. How could you not love him?
We'd do anything for kids. Yet 1 in 6 children in the U.S. struggle with hunger. Help end childhood hunger near you. Learn how at feedingamerica.org.
Mike Watts, Devin Kerr back with you. Charlotte and Cincinnati scoreless at halftime. Tonight's broadcast presented by Zico Coconut Water. Well, not a lot to show for Cincinnati statistically or for Charlotte on the scoreboard. Let's start with our highlights through the opening half. And Enzo Martinez, a couple good chances.
Enzo Martinez and Charlotte Independents definitely got it going on early. Again, in the middle of the field, we talked about the tight little spaces, combination play. Charlotte Independents did not shy away from the challenge, but unfortunately, as they continue to push numbers forward, they could not finish off some extremely good chances.
This was physical for very much the majority of the match.
Well, and you got to wonder from FC Cincinnati what they're going to do on the physical side of things to get it going in the second half, because for the most part, they've been extremely quiet. I mean, you got to wonder if Alan Koch and his boys actually ever got off the bus.
Opportunity falling free for Joel Johnson, who gave it a rip. What you're going to see in this overall set of highlights is shots and no goals for Charlotte and no shots at all for Cincinnati. Another one that's ripped wide.
Well, tactically, Charlotte had an absolute field day and took FC Cincinnati to school. Moving the ball anywhere they want around the field, 1-2s, triangle offenses. A lot of 1v1s. There's one right there where Enzo Martinez, all alone, puts Hildebrandt on the floor, goes to ground, and just can't even put it on frame. And going through the stats, you're going to see how many shots they actually got off, and were not able to get any of them on goal.
Ball across toward GB, couldn't get his head to that. We see Danny Koenig off toward the corner. Frustration that it was a corner. Alex Martinez would pick up a yellow card here with about 10 minutes to go in the first half.
And this is the spell where FC Cincinnati did have a little bit of possession and started to push numbers forward. But to counteract it, Charlotte Independence did not shy away, came right back, started to push numbers up the field again. Really thought Kalungi did very well in this situation, got up, ball shot out like a cannon in that situation. Unfortunately, couldn't get in the back of the net. Mitch Hildebrandt up to the task.
Your halftime highlights presented by Wells Fargo, and here is the Zico Coconut Water halftime stats. Possession for Charlotte, and for Cincinnati, that's a lot of goose eggs.
Well, I think it's extremely poor showing from FC Cincinnati so far. Again, I'm not sure exactly what Koch is going to do at halftime, if he's going to make any changes whatsoever. I'm sure there's going to be a stern talking to. And for Charlotte Independence, there's the number I'm talking about. They've had 5 shots, 3 of which were almost point blank, and that they only have 1 shot on target. And most importantly, they have no goals to show for it.
So halftime here, Charlotte and Cincinnati are scoreless at the Sportsplex. We've got the second half and a look around the league when we return, as Cincinnati and Charlotte 0-0 through 45.
The first moment I realized I had it inside me was back in high school. There was one day that I remember in my high school career pulling up to the soccer facility before a game. There was a huge sign that read, Ali Krieger, Player of the Year for the state of Virginia. And that was an award, in my eyes, was my aha moment for me. Trying to get to the highest level and be a professional in my sport. And I think at that moment was the moment for me that I decided to continue to get serious about the sport and going to college and becoming a professional, and then one day hopefully making the national team and winning a World Cup and winning the Olympics, because in our sport that's the ultimate goal, is that one wants to achieve and play at the highest level against the best players in the world. And I think since that day I saw that sign, I have never looked back, and I've tried to better myself every single day to become great. That was the moment that I first realized I had it inside me.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
When I get all steamed up, then I shout,
tip me over and pour me out. Oh.
It only takes a moment to make a moment.
Cheers.
Take time to be a dad today.
Dealing with the naysayers, the critics, the bullies. I mean, when you're dealing with those types of people who are knocking you down constantly and wanting to see you fail, that should just fuel you. Your dreams will come true. You have to believe that.
Halftime, Charlotte and FC Cincinnati, both in pursuit of playoff glory, finishing out the regular season. For Cincinnati, they still have work to do to officially reach their spot in the playoffs. For Charlotte, that's assured. The question is where they land among the top 8. Back with Devin Kerr, Mike Watts. Let's take a look at the Golden Boot race while we have a moment. Another trophy that's up for grabs. Chandler Hoffman scored his 15th goal in the USL Game of the Week this week. A nice hearty chip effort. Romario Williams, 15 goals for Charleston. But Enzo easily could have had number 17 in this game.
No, in my opinion, Enzo could have had 17, 18, and possibly even 19 to jump Kelly. But yeah, very frustrating first half for Enzo Martinez. Having the ability to be so open and be so free in those situations and not be able to finish something off. Very frustrating, but he's a professional. He's going to have to get back to the task at hand and try and put something away in the second half.
And Dane Kelly leading the way, the league's all-time leading goal scorer, 18 on the season for Reno. We're charging up the Western Conference standings. Meanwhile, when you think about the Eastern Conference, Louisville, with a win over the weekend against Rochester, could assure themselves the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Meanwhile, Cincinnati, the magic number is 9, but any of those teams, the 4 below them that lose, can knock that down, and they can take a point or 3 off that with a result tonight.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be an ebb and flow for FC Cincinnati over the next few days and games where they're going to end up. Their schedule a little bit easier coming down the stretch, and Charlotte Independence is going to have a much rougher time. But, you know, again, 45 minutes left and a valuable 3 points still out there.
For Cincinnati, at Ottawa, at Toronto. So that vaunted Canadian road swing, while Charlotte will look forward to closing at Louisville City and hosting Charleston Battery. So 2 playoff teams for Charlotte to focus on, sandwiching them on either side. Here's some midweek results. Tampa Bay losing Michael Nanshoff to what was a really tough to watch injury. Bethlehem drew with them 2-2, so they're still hanging around that playoff picture. Louisville shocked by Toronto on the road. Devon, well, Phoenix is a winner once again. They've gone over 10 unbeaten, and Real Monarchs, a dominant performance against Sacramento.
Yeah, most people went out and did their job. Again, like you said, Louisville definitely got shocked with that 1-0 stunning upset. Unfortunately, not able to close the gates there and move their way up, kind of distance themselves from the Independents and the Battery. Still leaving a few questions on the board with a couple games going on.
Of course, Cincinnati has to take on that TFC2 side that will likely finish last in the East, but you don't want to huck it up too early because they've beaten Charlotte as well. TFC2 has a couple of surprising wins this year, and certainly Cincinnati hopes they aren't the ones that get upset on the last day of the regular season. You never know how tight it could be at that stage. We're into the second half. Charlotte hosting Cincinnati. Independence, home side, second in the East. Cincinnati sitting in 6th. Still, with a win tonight, they could find their way eventually up to 4th with the right combination of results and potentially a home playoff game at Nippert, as they hosted in their inaugural season last year. Kenny Walker showing a yellow card for dissent on a foul 35 yards away from goal.
Stupid foul by Kenny Walker, especially this early in the second half. You've already given up the foul. Just backtrack, start over.
Through ball for Enzo Martinez, who turns and laced it toward the goal. Sam DeVitt kicked it out. An early corner, a minute in for Charlotte.
And once again, Charlotte's going to look to get the big boys involved, bring up Bilal Ducklet and Henry Kalungi, get the center backs up, get them involved. Would be a huge momentum swinger in this game if they could put something in.
They'll send it again 20 yards away from goal rather than swinging it over the box itself. Kalungi. It's a little bit surprising that they choose to do that, because when they have put it in the box, Charlotte's actually had some good chances.
Yeah, they've been decently effective for sure, especially that one header by Henry Kalungi at the close of the first half. But, you know, like I said, if you're not going to put the ball in the mixer and let the boys run underneath it, you got to have something very strategic set up that you've put to plan multiple times on the practice field, and everything that we've seen so far says that they haven't.
Johnson tosses in. Josu this time collecting and struggling still to get that upfield. He did keep it in play, but turns it back to Charlotte near the halfway line. Kalungi sending it up the left. Back by Lewis Hilton. We spoke with Mike Jeffries yesterday about urgency and where they're at in their season. He said during that 12-match unbeaten streak, maybe we took points that we wouldn't get, where we didn't play our sharpest. Right now, 2 straight losses. They've gone 2.5 games without scoring, and they aren't getting the bounces their way. So I think he has a pretty level head about all of it right now, with a couple games left in their regular season.
Yeah, that's the beautiful game that we've all been involved in one way, shape, or form, and have come to love and admire. And like you said, sometimes you go out there, things don't bounce your way, things don't go right, and you play the picture-perfect game, putting everything to paper and pen and absolutely annihilating your opposition. And there's other times where you go out, you don't have a great showing, and yet somehow statistics lacking, this, that, and the other, but you end up putting the ball away and you win 1-0 and grab 3 points.
David Estrada trying to straddle the line. Couldn't quite. Mike Jeffries, third year at the helm. Previously in Chicago. Was a Herman Trophy winner at Duke. Started coaching in the USL all the way back in 1993. Been around the block in varied professional leagues since. Enzo Martinez on it, his third year in Charlotte as well. 16 goals, Mark. Second most in the league. Martinez trying to backflip that in play. Ball to Josu. McLaughlin couldn't poke by Johnson. It's Bilal Duckett, the center back for Charlotte. Johnson wasn't getting forward, and Hilton knocked it out. 5 minutes into the second half. We're scoreless in Charlotte. Walker played that on the ground. Out of play.
And there's another look where the boys up top and in the middle just aren't in sync, not crisp tonight. Thought it was a solid little ball in by Kenny Walker, but definitely on a different page than his boys up top.
Still pristine, that jersey for Mizell.
It's delightful.
Josu tossed to the ground. Early on when Charlotte was playing here in Matthews, as this ball lined over the top and Duckett handles it, there was a little bit of sand that would come up out of the field. It was a brand new stadium, brand new field, and it took a little while to kind of work that out. For Cincinnati, obviously they play on turf at Nippert Stadium, and it's a different feeling. For Charlotte, they've kind of broken in this grass field that's a little bit bigger. For Cincinnati, they widened out their field over the offseason, some renovations, but you're still playing on turf. It's a different style, and I spoke with Mike Jeffries this week. He did feel like there was going to be a different dynamic in this game this time around.
Yeah, playing on turf or on grass are two very different surfaces, and especially when you're out of your element like FC Cincinnati, sometimes when you're just jumping into the grass for one game, it's weird because we all grow up playing on it, and then the next thing you know at the professional level, you're on the artificial stuff all the time. Definitely not one of my personal favorites, but there's that little caveat of the way the ball bounces. It's a little bit different when it, knocking a little spin or a little check on the ball, and it's difficult to adjust to when you go to a surface like natural grass.
It's becoming more prominent. I'm wondering if there's a point where it's going to be normal to play on one or the other game to game. Even high schools now, some have it, some don't. You could see it all the way from that level on, and maybe that value that you gain from playing on turf or not will kind of go away with time.
Well, the initial thought process on it is, the financials. What's the cost to put it in versus maintaining grass, having a groundskeeper, so on and so forth.
Enzo Martinez entering the box. Johnson was the target. That'll bounce off of Josu. Some scissors there from Johnson. Contact from Josu. Corner on the way for Charlotte in the 53rd minute.
I'll tell you what would be coming out of my mouth if I was Mike Jeffries at halftime. I would be having a very long conversation with my right back and my right midfielder, pushing the ball forward. Joel Johnson did a great job at the start of the first half, and they kind of shied away from it towards the latter part. They really need to go after Harrison Delbridge because he was having a blinder at the beginning of this game.
Hilton drove that low. GB. Koenig. Hilton. Well, Enzo Martinez and Joel Johnson not quite on the same wavelength there.
No, the Martinez brothers seem to be more than frustrated at this point in time. Enzo having a few words just now, and Alex Martinez a second ago expressing his frustration at David Estrada in the middle of the field, not liking the spacing.
Bone dishes toward Koenig. Boehner nearly stole that away in a dangerous spot. Hilton. Cutting in, Estrada able to keep possession for Charlotte here. If you're Cincinnati, I know they're not your end game passers, but GB and Danny Koenig are the two players with the fewest passes in the opponent's half so far in this game. 13 combined between the two. They've barely seen any kind of service up top. And part of that is good for Charlotte. The other side, if you're Cincinnati, that's a bit troubling.
I mean, it's a staggering statistic to think about, considering we've already played one half of football here. I mean, yeah, for those two guys to only have touched the ball 13 times, again, credit and kudos to the Charlotte backline and their midfield. The spacing and tactics they've implied have been great, but FC Cincinnati has got to find a way to open things up.
Herrera off of Barry. So that's their passes in the opponent's half, and touches. It's a little bit better. Lined in by Hilton, and that was blocked down. Bone plays it out. And a touch here for GB, who gets thrown off the ball by Callum Ross. In total touches, it's at 36 right now. That was number 37 between the two.
Just blowing the numbers off the board tonight. I'll tell you what, though, there is a disconnect. Now, I know they like to push numbers forward, and they implement this quote-unquote 3-4-3 system. But there is a disconnect from the middle of this team and the boys up top. I mean, there is a solid, what we're watching right now at points in time going forward, 25, 30 yards between that, and that is just a very difficult gap to close. And when they turn the ball over like this, Charlotte can just pick them apart. They're having a field day.
There's Estrada. Somehow that stayed in for Delbridge.
Harrison Delbridge finally making an impact on the game in a positive manner. Eaten apart in the first half, but that's a great tackle right there.
Delbridge won it all in 2014. Cincinnati since the beginning. Native of Sydney, Australia. Koenig the pressure, but Ross able to play out of it. Turned over, Barry, GB, Bone, McLaughlin, Bone again. McLaughlin trying to get it wide and did. Jimmy McLaughlin driving in on Yearwood. Service that Duckett handled. Walker. It's Bone again for Cincinnati in the 59th minute. Still 0-0. Out by Sam DeVitt. There's a good run of possession there for Cincinnati that doesn't, again, result in a shot.
Well, I think that's what they need to do defensively as well. I know Charlotte's going to dominate the possession game, but FC Cincinnati needs to push their line a little bit higher, start applying some pressure in the defensive third and in the middle of the field, because they're giving so much space, which is actually leading Charlotte to come down the field and present more positive opportunities on the offensive side of the ball.
Just beyond the reach of Josu, but the pass central for Enzo Martinez fell short. So Cincinnati tries to counter. McLaughlin from the left. Ran into Johnson, play continues. GB picks it up. Walker reversing, and there's frustration bubbling over from both sides offensively. Lifted into space. This is onside. Estrada, Delbridge got it behind him. Sends it up the line where Josu is there to help quell the attack of Charlotte. Johnson stepped in, but left it out of play.
Harrison Delbridge doing a good job once again sliding over. Not necessarily a game-saving tackle, but a vital one at that. And you have to wonder as well, as we approach the 60th minute here, Mike, no tactical changes, no personnel changes. You got to wonder if that conversation at halftime was, listen, we don't have our best stuff tonight. Let's try and weather the storm and get out of here with a point. If we can sneak a late goal or something in cheeky and grab 3 points, great, but otherwise, let's try and get out of here unscathed and gain a valuable point on the road.
For Cincinnati there, without Andrew Wiedemann and Justin Hoyt, you would argue this is much of their best 11. Service in is headed out towards Estrada. Johnson has GB barreling in. Stabbed back out to Josu. Off of Estrada. Corner for Cincinnati in the 61st minute.
Speaking of a corner, as we get a little look at the FC Cincinnati sideline, looks like they got a line change warming up down there in the corner.
Be a lot more of a line change if the 5-sub rule were still in effect as it was last year. There are times where you'd see 4 players going in, and that's a bit of a head scratcher. Well, Harrison Delbridge there in the middle of your screen. So without doubt, a big option for them at 6'4". Cincinnati here on this corner. Alan Koch looking down his touchline. Dakers, Quinn, Pollock, Halfhill, Dominguez, Gregg, all available on the bench. Again, ball left a bit short. It's been a trend for both teams. And Charlotte off on the counter. 3 blue jerseys trending across midfield. Set down for Hilton, and Herrera can get it back to him.
And I think David Estrada should have played that ball much sooner and taken a page out of FC Cincinnati's book. Charlotte doing very well to gain possession of the ball and push numbers forward. But Estrada holding the ball up, allowing FC Cincinnati to backtrack and actually gain the possession battle from a numbers standpoint. We started the run and it was a 3v1. The next thing you know, Charlotte's still holding on 3 and FC Cincinnati has brought 8 behind the ball.
Mike Jeffries said, we felt like we moved the ball around pretty well, and he could probably say that again as he did after the June 10th meeting. But we had trouble breaking them down. Cincinnati is not an easy team to break down at all. Through again for Hilton. DeVitt back, Hildebrandt.
Well, and outside of breaking them down, Mike, the other thing is regardless of chemistry on the offensive side of things like we've talked about, they've still got Mitch Hildebrandt back there in goal. So even when things aren't going their way, he's a pretty solid goalkeeper back there, more than up to the task of taking care of things that slide in.
10 shutouts last year for Mitch. Brought down by Bone. Ross goes pushing in to Koenig. Kalungi spun out Koenig. That battle continued on, and now Koenig has a chance to race up the touchline. Ross going down to tackle it away.
And Ross not happy with that as well, and rightfully so. Not really sure how our head referee did not blow the whistle in that situation. As once again, our guys on the touchline throwing a few too many balls onto the pitch.
Delbridge trying to pick out GB. Mizell caught that beyond the end line.
Give me a little space here, yeah. What's that? You have to give me a little space. I can at least be able to see. Yeah.
Gotta wonder if that's Alan Koch asking Mike Jeffries for a little space for his boys on the field. Not able to open things up. I think that's how I took it anyway.
Yeah.
We're all friends here.
Honestly, I thought that, I misheard it. I thought it was you. All right, I'll move over. With Devin Kerr, who's a little bit closer personnel-wise than I'd like. Mike Watts. Tack on for GB. Behind Bone. Bone into the area. GB was backing up. Couldn't put his head to it. GB scoring so many big goals en route to that US Open Cup semifinal appearance. 11 goals on the year. Scored 8 of those in his first 10 games. So 3 in his last 11. Alex Martinez throwing his feet back as Boehner went in on the challenge.
Martinez being extremely clinical right there on Matt Boehner.
Martinez met from behind by Bone. Walker, shoulder to shoulder with him. Walker the foul. Walker's playing on a yellow card.
Look at the 50-50 challenge. I mean, it's unfortunate the referee's in that situation there because he's on the wrong side of the ball, but you know, that's got to be the 3rd or 4th time this game that the referee's blown something on FC Cincinnati where they've committed a foul within about 30 yards of their goal. You would think at this stage, on a professional level, you would figure out you don't want to do that, yet alone at this stage in the game.
Free kick here feels a bit hopeful from this distance.
If I was standing over the ball, I mean, not hopeful at all, much more realistic. But, you know, sitting in this situation, yeah, probably going to be a little knock to the back post, the flick back into the middle. But hey, what do I know?
That does take a skip. Out for a corner.
Instead, Jorge Herrera decides to hit it with his instep from about outer space.
Herrera bobblehead night is coming up. If you're able to get those new season tickets, ball across with Herrera being the target. Herrera the foul there. A 50-goal man, Herrera knocking over GB. One of 2 in USL to reach that plateau, the other Dane Kelly. Scored an Olympico on July 4th against Pittsburgh, Herrera did. So nothing is really outside of Jorge Herrera's distance.
Apparently not. You know, I'd like to take all my comments and remove them from the record prior to the free kick. He quite rapidly put me in my place, so my apologies, good sir. That's why you're down there and I'm up here.
Up the left, Charlotte. Delbridge popping out from center back and knocking that upfield.
I'll tell you what, Mike, Charlotte, it's impressive to watch them play, but then there's just no precision in the final third. There's no real open creativity. You know, when they have had the chances, they couldn't get to it.
GB racing.
You know, they're putting in such tremendous work ethic defensively, winning the ball back and then maintaining great possession, slowly moving up the field, doing what they're known to do. And whether FC Cincinnati is unknowingly turning the ball over, making terrible mistakes, which they've done, Charlotte couldn't capitalize on. And then Charlotte has been able to break down the back line a few times, and they can't capitalize there either. I mean, you got to wonder at this stage in the game, going on the stats, how it's really still 0-0.
Alex Martinez will push it, get into this far side. 70th minute. Johnson and Josu collide. Johnson came away with it and works on Delbridge, sends it low, turning. Ball knocked away at the last moment from Enzo Martinez. What a great tackle that was, and now back comes Cincinnati. Bone, GB. So many blue jerseys got back in a hurry.
Well, I'll tell you, Mike, I think I caught an Austin Berry glimpse. I wasn't positive. That might have been Semdevitt that slid over. I couldn't tell. But either way, that right there, we talked about game-saving tackles. You're going to get a much better look at it here. Joel Johnson going one-on-one down the line. Excellent job swinging it across, and that is definitely an Austin Berry sighting. Wow, what a great job standing up. Enzo Martinez keeping his body between him and the goal, not letting him get shook off. That is excellent defending by that gentleman right there.
Hilton reversing big time from Austin Berry, the 9th overall pick in the 2012 Super Draft to Chicago, an immediate impact, Rookie of the Year, Major League Soccer. Martinez. Estrada back out wide, now Alex Martinez taking over again. Of Joel Johnson, and then McLaughlin put that out of play inadvertently.
I mean, we're in the 72nd minute, and they're walking around like there's not a care in the world. I mean, there's got to be a little bit of excitement going forward.
Martinez slips it through. Herrera! Saved by Hildebrandt. Struggled towards the line and cleared. Ross. Callum Ross again. Estrada. Estrada sweeping it inside. Estrada still laying it off. Martinez. Corner on the way. It was deflected.
Well, let's go back to the first one. Mitch Hildebrandt getting in on the action again, saving his team. Needs to throw up the Mutombo finger wave, and the Mitch says no. And I'll tell you what, right here, Enzo Martinez should have hit that first time. I understand the spacing, wanted to bring it across the defender. He hits that first time across his body. I think that goes in the back of the net.
Kevin Schindler will come on. The German has some experience in Bundesliga, coming over July the 30th. Danny Koenig on his way off. Schindler primarily a midfielder, so we'll see if the tactics change here for Cincinnati. Koenig never did quite find his feet in this game.
Yeah, definitely a lot more on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm sure his teammates are very happy for that, but you're hoping Schindler's maybe going to tuck in and, like you said, switch tactics a little bit and allow FC Cincinnati to have a little bit more possession, if not a little bit more of a presence in the center of the field.
And Siage enters now. Hilton. That took a deflection on the way in, made it a bit dangerous. This will stay in play. Question is what Bone can do with it. Slips it through. Here's Schindler. Knocked away. Mizell got down and knocked it out.
Well, we talked about Schindler and his presence in the middle of the field. He's definitely pushing his numbers up top. FC Cincinnati showing you exactly what they're capable of and the quick strike capability they have, moving the ball down the field. Great ball up top by Corbin Bone. FC Cincinnati, unfortunate not to come away with a goal there, but again, starting to push just like that off the substitution, starting to push numbers forward. Approaching the 75th minute, they'd really like to get something going.
That's their second shot of the match. Mizell one-on-one with Schindler, able to keep that out. But Cincinnati, the danger not yet over. Service, GB, it's kicked in. Schindler. GB's got a giant grin on his face. That could have been his, but I'm sure he doesn't care in the end. Cincinnati leads. Kicked in right at the goal line.
Mike Jeffries has been bit by the deja vu bug once again. His team carrying most of the momentum and possession throughout the entire match. Solid ball swung into the back post. Absolutely horrendous marking by Charlotte. You can see Delbridge sitting there and he was marked up, but GB, you cannot let that gentleman have a free header inside the 6-yard box. Schindler, the super sub, coming on, getting the go-ahead goal, and FC Cincinnati have a little life in them yet.
Goal number 1 with the franchise. In appearance number 5, 76th minute, the goal by Schindler. Could not have asked for a bigger moment within the context of this road swing. It's game 2 of 4 on the road to close the year for Cincinnati. Their magic number remains 9 for the playoffs. They could have just drawn one giant 3-point step closer. Through ball the other way. Enzo Martinez didn't go too far. Hildebrandt walk it all the way toward the byline.
Well, Charlotte and the Independents have to make sure that they continue to stick with their game plan. They need to stay calm. I've been in these situations before where you continuously have possession, you're pushing numbers up the field, you're getting shots off, maybe not necessarily on target like they're not doing tonight, but you're still going forward, and it's working. You know, unfortunately, you've given up a goal, but hey, you're at home, stay cool, calm and composed, and just keep doing what they're doing. They should be okay.
For Charlotte now, all this possession, opportunities, they've come to nothing. But still 13 minutes to go with Cincinnati ahead, 1-0, and a free kick coming. Enzo Martinez down to turf.
I'll tell you what, Kenny Walker's got to be really careful because that was a nasty little foul. You're going to get another look at it right here. Great turn by Enzo Martinez, and now I guess Kenny Walker came out on the end of it. Guilty party was actually Corbin Bone. Was not shown the yellow card with that yellow hair of his. Think he does it on his own, or?
I don't know. I think you look good with that look. I think it's something worth considering, Devin.
This is definitely a dangerous area. Jorge Herrera making me eat my words about 10 minutes ago, letting us know he has no problem having a strike from about 40 yards out.
Herrera has not scored or assisted a goal in the last 5. He's got 12 goals, 5 assists this year. Herrera put it on goal. Hildebrandt was there. Not a bad look at all from that distance.
It sounded like I might have taken a little deflection off someone's head in the wall. Mitch Hildebrandt up to the task, got it covered.
Hildebrandt vacates his box to kick that away. Enzo is in an offside position.
I wonder what it's like to be Mitch Hildebrandt this year with all the success that he's had in the back and some decent results. Obviously his amazing goalkeeping ability in the US Open Cup run, saving all those PKs and making excellent saves down the stretch. The Pride creating your own chant of Mitch says no.
They've got a couple of outstanding supporters groups over in the Bailey at Nippert. Chance for more. Mizell is gesturing. He thought that was out. Off of Cincinnati. Won't be the case. Change on the way. Alex Martinez will make his way out. Caleb Calvert will make his first appearance of the season with the side on loan from Colorado Rapids. Scored 6 times last year, 8 in blue. Johnson, the header up. Bone settled, reverses. Sliding challenge. Siage has come away with the ball. Siage lays it through. Enzo Martinez is on the ball. He turns and plays it across. Cleared, if only for a moment. DeVitt popped up. Hildebrandt a punch and out for a corner.
A smart play by Mitch Hildebrandt at the end of the play to just knock the ball out and let his team compose themselves and reset. What an absolute astonishing ball by Martinez right across the box. And once again, I'll tell you what, Austin Berry having a great night defensively for his squad. That's the second ball he's cleared away in the past 5 minutes.
81st minute, Cincinnati up a goal. Charlotte corner. Skimmed off the head of an attacker for Charlotte and falls into Hildebrandt.
And you almost wonder on that counterattack that Charlotte just had, did Siage hold the ball, or excuse me, let the ball go too soon? You know, they were basically playing a 3v3, close to a 4v4 game against each other, backtracking, but I mean, you've got your center backs on their heels. As you start to approach the goal, your numbers are gonna start to press in, and although space is gonna compress, FC Cincinnati would have had to make a move. Thought maybe you should have held it a little bit longer, but Charlotte once again denied.
Siage back to the halfway line. Cincinnati could pick up 3 enormous points in their climb toward the playoffs. It would keep them in contention for a home playoff game. Team that's been shut out 6 times this year on the road, but has broken through that. Siage lost his footing. Clean play.
And on that note, Mike, obviously it'd be virtual standings as we still have games this weekend and then coming up. But right now, FC Cincinnati grabs 3 points. They're actually going to jump into 5th place at 46 points.
You look at the Rowdies at 45, could jump into 4th. For the moment, of course.
For the moment.
But 3 games in hand for the Rowdies and the Rhinos. Once this one's complete. But then you're putting the pressure on somebody else. You've already got the points. That's sort of the funny thing about games in hand. You hear coaches talk about it a lot. Enzo Martinez is unlocked up the right-hand side again. It's the final product there. Big collision with Delbridge. Enzo can't believe it, but I agree with the referee on face value.
And there's Harrison Delbridge. Again, didn't have the best of first halves. As you can hear, the Independents starting to step up in their fan base, making it well known. And you can see the 50-50 tackle. Folks at home, you can be the judge on that one.
He was
But if you're in the area, there's an element of Delbridge knows that's the finest line in soccer.
Yeah, as a former center back, when you're stepping over there, you do not want to make a mistake in any way, shape, or form. I was always extremely reluctant to leave my feet, but Harrison Delbridge, although not starting off very well, he's closed the game and done a great job in the second half.
There's Kyle Gregg, who scored once this year in 14 appearances between Vancouver and Cincinnati. Was once upon a time Alan Koch's leading man, the Vancouver offense. GB will make his move toward the sideline.
Alan Koch putting in some fresh legs in the final 5 minutes of this game. Bring Kyle on, let him wreak havoc up top. Cause a little bit more frustration for Joel Johnson as he's got to track back and deal with those fresh legs. Not the best outing we've seen from GB this year, but I'll tell you what, he'll take an assist like that all day long, and he'll definitely take 3 points if they can get out of here.
Bone took that away and found Jimmy McLaughlin. Mizell taking over, 5 minutes to play before stoppage time. Cincinnati has the lead. Kevin Schindler put the ball from GB off a set piece and knocked it in right at the goal line back in the 76th. Enzo Martinez trying to hold off. Successfully does the defender, Johnson. Enzo Martinez hit that with too much pace, and Hildebrandt will collect.
I'm not really sure Lewis Hilton was ready to make that diagonal run in between and behind the back line, excuse me. Decent vision from Enzo Martinez, but again, just a disconnect between the guys, not on the same page, and they are not clicking in the second half, and they just can't slot anything away.
Foul from Gregg, who's into ready position. McLaughlin. Well, that was steady from Johnson. Ross sending upfield, 2 hands went up, and that ball found its way out. Herrera. Push from Walker. No time for discussion with Kenny Walker. Back into position, a change coming. There's Spies waiting to come on. Spies has scored once this year against Ottawa. Came over from Augsburg. I think at some point Spies played against Schindler in Bundesliga 2. It's a big world, but when you're in the same league, it gets a bit smaller.
Well, and I think with his time in Nuremberg, he was in the Dritte Liga as well.
Service knocked down by Ross. Hildebrandt able to hold on. Check that, it was Calvert. Was able to get a piece.
Well, I'll tell you what, when that ball was swung in and Caleb Calvert was able to get his foot on it, I saw it take the touch, I saw it take a bounce, and I really thought it was over Mitch's head, but as the Pride is quick to remind you, once again, we referenced the chant earlier, Mitch says no and keeps his team in this game.
Bone was dispossessed. Hildebrandt, who has said no on a couple major occasions. McLaughlin. McLaughlin is through. Shooting off the crossbar. Follow-up is held by Mizell.
Wow. Scintillating stuff coming down the stretch here. I mean, Jimmy McLaughlin, great individual effort getting in behind. You're going to see here going 1v1. What a strike, and it looked like Cody Mizell got a touch on that. You're going to see it again here. I think he got his fingertips on that right off the crossbar. Almost thought FC Cincinnati was going to close it out, but
Hilton is down, and that challenge came in. There's a card coming. That should be a red, a second yellow to Walker.
Yeah, Kyle Walker, Kenny Walker for sure. We're going to step away from the choice words being shared around the stadium, if you hear any of them. And Kenny Walker, I said, you know, he needed to watch himself because he was extremely active in this second half. Got that yellow card early on, a poor professional foul, and it has now cost his team, dropping them down to 10 men with very important minutes to go in this game.
Happens right at the 90th minute mark. So Cincinnati down to 10, up a goal, ball lofted long and out. Another look here. We're trying to continue play on. Hilton remain down.
Lewis Hilton trying to walk it off. Say what you will about that foul, you know, he put himself in that situation. Maybe a little soft on the foul, maybe not, whatever your interpretation of it is. You know, he shouldn't have had all those fouls in between. He gave up a lot of fouls and made poor decisions defensively tonight. And hopefully it doesn't come back to haunt FC Cincinnati.
3 minutes of stoppage time. Cincinnati in the 5th minute of stoppage time, scoring Danny Koenig a penalty against St. Louis. Last time out to draw 2-2 in Fenton, Missouri. Well, we see a similar result here. Hildebrandt will make that catch.
I'm sure the boys in white and red stripe tonight would be more than happy to bring the Queen City Cup back with them on the bus. Atrocious first half, much more active in the second.
Lifted toward Enzo Martinez. He brings it down. Martinez taps it wide. Spees cutting it across. Shot is over from Herrera. Oh, it was a yawning net. He could have drawn level in stoppage time.
Jorge Herrera. I mean, wow, you couldn't see the build-up there. Enzo Martinez gasping, hands on his head in disbelief that his fellow teammate could not close that out, as FC Cincinnati is going to make one final change and assist the referee with his clock management.
There goes Jimmy McLaughlin. All the energy in the world during the game, but it's a slow trudge toward the touchline as he daps up Dakers, who's onto the field now.
And I'll tell you what, between Alex Martinez and more specifically 1v1 and direct chances, Enzo Martinez and Herrera, Jorge Herrera, are definitely going to go back and watch this tape. And I'll tell you what, I wouldn't even go back and watch the tape with all the frustration that they've probably got pent up inside. I mean, you don't get opportunities like that on the training ground at half speed, yet alone at full speed in a situation like this.
Martinez. Herrera almost allowed that out. Last minute of stoppage time. Daker's got a touch, but Herrera entering the area, keeps it still, lays it off. Martinez cutting back. Contact and the penalty. A penalty in the last minute of stoppage time. Shades of what we saw in St. Louis. The final minute of stoppage time again, and Cincinnati's win is very much in question now.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mike, the most active gentleman on the field tonight has definitely been Enzo Martinez. You see a little cutback in between the legs, has a little touch out in front of him, and I'll tell you what, that is soft at best, my friends. Charlotte Independence holding their breath, hoping that Herrera can turn misfortune into fame and tie this game.
Herrera, Hildebrandt. Herrera, Hildebrandt made the save! Oh, he made a huge save, a three-point save. Out to midfield. Not over yet. Opportunity for Charlotte, through ball for Herrera. Bounces toward midfield. looking at his watch, whistle in mouth, full time. Cincinnati escapes. Mitch Hildebrandt, a jaw-dropping save in the last seconds.
Jorge Herrera, once again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but not the best of strikes. Herrera coming up as a little bit, known as a little bit of a free kick specialist, stepping into the spot right there. Little did he know that the very capable Mitch Hildebrandt is a PK specialist, especially as of late. And FC Cincinnati is gonna sneak out of here with 3 points some way, somehow.
How could you not think of Mitch Hildebrandt and his run through the Open Cup? Penalties are his forte. Schindler, his first goal in a Cincinnati uniform. It's timely. A 1-0 win for Cincinnati. They pull that much closer to the playoffs, and they're in fourth for the moment. Highlights, stats after this.
Dealing with the naysayers, the critics, the bullies. I mean, when you're dealing with those types of people who are knocking you down constantly and wanting to see you fail, that should just fuel you. Your dreams will come true. You have to believe that.
We built the USL into the largest Division II professional soccer league in the world. And now the time has come to announce USL Division III, America's professional third division league, completing the U.S. pro soccer landscape. It's time for your town, your team, your game. D3 will fuel local pride and local passion, creating a new legacy for the beautiful game and inspiring its tribal following across the country. This is professional soccer, built on a disciplined financial model and operational excellence, featuring exciting venues to thrill fans, in hungry new markets yearning for the game. USL Division III, professional, passionate, proven. Pro soccer starts here, coming in 2019. For more information, visit usld3.com. Tonight, Charlotte and Cincinnati finishes 1-0. As we take a look at tonight's Wells Fargo saves of the match, one for each side.
And we pretty much had a sleeper up until this point in time. Cody Mizell didn't want to ruin that uniform, did a great job getting fingertips on Jimmy McLaughlin. And again, as you just saw, folks, in the closing moments, though not the best of efforts from Jorge Herrera, taking nothing away from Mitch Hildebrandt. And once again showing his amazing mental tactics and leaping capability, keeping this FC Cincinnati squad up 1-0. And as we talked about those valuable 3 points, they're also going to bring home the Queen City Cup.
Second consecutive year that it goes to Cincinnati. Here are your full-time highlights presented by Wells Fargo. Not a single shot in the first half for Cincinnati, but Enzo Martinez was dangerous.
And Enzo Martinez and the entire Charlotte Independence came with a game plan, and they were executing it to a T in the first half, making light of that left side. Harrison Delbridge, as I said, had a blinder, could not keep up with the tactics of Charlotte Independence. But again, like we said, lots of possession, lots of shots, didn't really put anything on frame, even from 6 yards out by Enzo Martinez.
This all in the opening half. Ball finding Martinez again. He'd slip this offside netting and out. So scoreless at halftime. More opportunities for Charlotte in the second half.
And it seemed to be the situation that was going to plague them all night long. They could move the ball down the field. They were actually breaking down the back line. And you hate to point fingers, but at some point in time at a professional level, you've got to take responsibility for your actions and finish things off. Neither of which Jorge Herrera or Enzo Martinez were able to do this evening.
That's a good save from Mizell that we saw as our save of the game. But it was Schindler who would score in the 76th, and GB may have had that goal anyways.
Yeah, GB, I mean, we didn't call his name much. We talked about the lack of touches in general, especially in the offensive third. Great ball played to the back post. GB going unmarked. You cannot leave a gentleman of that caliber unmarked at any point in time. Rises to the occasion, knocks it down, and as you said, the super sub steps in and is able to bury the goal, getting his first professional goal for FC Cincinnati this year.
Then another opportunity for McLaughlin. This could have sealed it. Off the crossbar, the follow-up right into Mizell.
The speedster Jimmy McLaughlin getting in behind the back line. Mizell making an excellent save and then started to turn into a little bit of a track meet in the closing moments. Charlotte Independence making their way down the field. Doing a good job again with possession. Started to be a little bit more creative in the final third as we closed the game out. But again, like we said, Mike Jeffries put in a good effort. Mike Jeffries and his squad put in a good effort but could not close the game out. And they are going to get out of here with a 0 and a goose egg.
7th shutout this year for Hildebrandt, and I misspoke previously. I was looking at live standings at the time. So Cincinnati moves into a tie for 5th right now, not into 4th, as previously mentioned. Still, this a giant result for them because everyone else has games in hand, but they have now moved 5 massive points clear of the Red Bulls.
Yeah, folks, you can blame me on that one as well. Math was never my forte. But that being said, stepping forward, yeah, there's a lot going on. You can see towards the 10, 9, 8, 7. I mean, all those guys, there's the games in hand. FC Cincinnati, only 2 left. Bethlehem Steel, right now, they win those 2 games. Adds an extra 6 points. They're sitting at 45, looking down at FC Cincinnati. But again, like you and I talked about, Mike, Bethlehem and all the other squads still have to go out, still got to put up results and put up numbers to gain those points.
Nobody wants to go to Charlotte right now, and no one wants to host Cincinnati in the first round of the playoffs. What a performance tonight. Charlotte had their chances. They're next at Louisville City, Saturday, October 7th. Cincinnati taking on Ottawa. The Canadian road trip is next. For Sharni Yerke and Gage Stillitson, Manny Simone, Devin Kerr, the analyst, Mike Watts saying so long. Charlotte falls tonight at home. Cincinnati, the late save they needed. Schindler the goal. 1-0.
This copyrighted telecast of the United Soccer League may not be retransmitted, rebroadcast, or reproduced without the express written consent from the United Soccer League.